What's up, everybody? Welcome to episode 1 of the 10k to 100k challenge, where I basically try my hand to grow a small $10,000 account into 100k, which is essentially 10x, in as short of a time as possible. Throughout this series, I'm going to be sharing most of the major trades that I take. I'll also show you exactly the transaction history and everything, so that you guys know that I'm not cheating. And the reason I'm doing this series is simply just to document the journey of growing a small account, 10x, and I'm sure a lot of people would like to see this and to show you that it is indeed possible to do in a relatively short time. Now, I'm not going to expect to accomplish this in a very unrealistic time frame, such as a month. This is probably going to take about 3 months, maybe 6 months. And to some of you, you might be thinking, hey, that is a really long time to be making money. But there are a few things that you need to understand. Firstly, the stock market returns year on year is about 10%, give or take, and this is averaged out over 100 to 200 years. So growing an account 10x, that is 1,000% in 3 to 6 months, is a ridiculously quick speed. So do not underestimate the power of taking small trades and then compounding them into giga returns, essentially. And before I dive into any of these trades, I'm going to lay out a few ground rules, right? What are we going to be working with? If you want to skip ahead, feel free to do so. But if you want to find out exactly what kind of setups and what kind of coins I'm going to be trading under what kind of setups that I'm looking for, then stick around. So firstly, I'm going to be prioritizing Bitcoin and Ethereum for the most part. And the reason for this is because I like to trade using the market maker model. And in order to utilize the market maker model effectively, you need to be trading within specific times of the day. And this is not to say that you cannot trade at any time. All I'm simply saying is that when you are following the model that I'm going to be taking for this challenge, it will be in your best interest to focus on a few key times of the day. And that's going to be between 8 p.m. to 12 a.m. New York. And full disclosure, I'm going to be using the New York time zone for all of these trades. So any of the times that I state throughout this challenge is going to be based on the New York time. So 8 p.m. to 12 p.m. New York, that is what you call the Asia session. And this is generally a very, very volatile session. And if you know what to look for during this session, it can be incredibly profitable. Now, the Asia kill zone really pales in comparison to the volatility that you will see during the London session. And so the second time that I'm going to be hunting for trades is going to be between 2 a.m. New York to about 5 a.m. New York. Now, this is what is known as the London kill zone, coined by ICT himself. In a way, he is my mentor. So during this session, as well as the New York Open, right? The New York Open or the New York kill zone is going to come in between 7 a.m. New York to about 9 a.m. New York. But realistically, I'm going to be looking for trades even until about 11 a.m. New York. But given that I am currently living in Asia, I wouldn't want to trade the afternoon session of New York because that would be midnight for me. So those are going to be my key trading times of the day, between 8 p.m. New York to 12 p.m. New York. Honestly, that's not going to happen very often because during this time, truth be told, I'm still asleep. So primarily it's going to be between 2 a.m. New York until about 11 a.m. New York. That is when I'm going to be hunting for trades. Now, the coins that I'm going to be focusing on, going back to the original topic, is going to be Bitcoin and Ethereum. The reason I say this is because these two coins tend to follow the market maker models to a T, especially Bitcoin. So if you can understand what Bitcoin does, and you can understand this through this market maker model, which you will learn throughout the series, then you will have a very good grasp at what Bitcoin likes to do. And Ethereum, to a certain extent, tends to follow this model as well. But given that it is an altcoin, it is still subject to the whims of Bitcoin, and it can be slightly hit or miss, right? It's still good, but it's going to be slightly hit or miss. So my priority is going to be on Bitcoin, but of course we can trade Ethereum. And throughout the series, we're going to look at other altcoins as well. We're going to do some back tests on other altcoins like BNB, Solana, AVAX. And it's always good to have a coin as volatile as AVAX in your repertoire, because this coin, it's so volatile, and volatility is a trader's best friend. You don't want to go into a trade and then, having it do nothing for days. You want volatility. It is your friend. To an investor, that might not be a very good, companion to his strategy, but for a trader, this is perfect. And generally, you're not going to see the same kind of volatility on a coin like Bitcoin, for example. Look at these movements, a lot more tame compared to AVAX. So throughout this series, I'm going to experiment with a few smaller cap altcoins, and we're going to see where it takes us. Now, as for the exact kind of setup that I'm usually hunting for, there are a few methods that I like to use on a day-to-day basis to generate consistent profits. So this video is not going to be long enough for me to cover everything. So hopefully throughout this series, you'll be able to glean like what kind of stuff that I'm looking for. But I have already made a video actually on a sort of bread and butter setup that I like to look for on a day-to-day basis that is really effective at generating profits. And I'm going to link that video right there. Honestly, I had no intention of turning this 10K to 100K challenge that I'm doing right now into a YouTube series, but since I've already started on trying to educate you guys on YouTube, then might as well. This should prove very insightful. And full disclosure, by the way, if you want to follow along with all the exact traits that I'm going to call in this challenge, this actually started from the private Discord group. So that's something you're interested in, you want to check that out. But otherwise, there is a one last really important ground rule that I need to cover before we get into any of this stuff. If you guys decide to try taking these setups yourselves, then one thing I will really have to advise you about is the fact that I'm taking these setups because I have already, backtested this. I've already forward tested this. I've already played with live funds with this particular kind of setup. So if you want to replicate this, what I recommend for you to do is go to TradingView, right? And you want to take a look at this button here, right? The replay button. What you want to do is you want to go to a point in time, right? Let's say you click there, right? And then try the strategy out yourselves as you are watching the chart, for example, like that. Then try seeing if these setups, this is called backtesting essentially. And until you've done like 100, 200, 300 backtests, you shouldn't be trying this with your live money at all. Right? Just a fair warning. So if you think about it this other way, in order to be, profitable, you've really got to be better than 90% of the market. And if you're just watching a couple of videos and trying this out with your live money, you're going to lose it all. Until you've backtested this and forward tested this, don't try to replicate the things that I'm going to show. And more importantly, right, this will be the final ground rule that I'm going to be setting in, this challenge, is risk management, right? And I preach risk management a lot. Like, it is one of the first things that you're going to learn about if you ever decide to, come learn with me. And that's risk management, because this is the one thing that's going to separate like 99% of losing traders from the 1% that actually makes it out. So when I talk about risk management, I've already made a full video on, exactly how I would recommend you guys to do risk management. So check out that video if you haven't already. But otherwise, the risk parameters for this challenge is on the top end. I'll probably take on about 4% account risk on the top end. If I'm really comfortable with it, if I'm really confident with the trade, that is as much as I'm willing to risk on the account. But otherwise, most of the time, it's going to be just between 1 to 2% risk per trade. And you'll see the wonders that you can do with 1 to 2% account risk. If you take the right setups, if you know what you're looking for, you can grow a small account really big, really quick. So this episode has really just been sort of an introduction and just to set some expectations on what to expect from this series. And if this series gets, enough traction and you guys love it enough, then I will definitely make this much more of a focus to constantly release episodes of this series. And if you want sort of a gleam as to the type of trades that I've already taken since starting this 10K to 100K challenge, now those episodes are not officially in this 10K to 100K challenge, but if you just want something to get started on, go watch that first video where I lay down the bread and butter strategy. But after that video was published, I did publish 2 more episodes talking about the bread and butter strategy. So those are traits that you will generally see me taking on this challenge. So check that video out if you want something to watch. But otherwise, I will see you in episode 1. May the gains be with you, my friend. Stay safe.